Okay, good evening. Welcome to the September 18th Palmer Town Council meeting. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is visitors' comments. If you are interested in speaking on a non-agenda item, we have a lot of people in the room. We have a large agenda, so I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes per person. If everyone wants to talk, we won't be able to get to everybody, or we'll be here till midnight. But I'd ask that you come forward, give your name and address. Is there anyone who wants to speak? Okay. Seeing none.
Where's Butch?
We have the minutes of the June 29th council meeting. Is there any comments?
I didn't have any comments.
I just had a couple things. Under visitors' comments, we're under Steve Cosmeter, and then it says -ST. I don't know what ST is. Were you going to put his street in?
Maybe Church Street,
Huh?
maybe possibly Church Street.
So that ST just needs to, it
Be
doesn't
strict.
belong.
Yeah.
And then under the budget hearing, so then you have visitors' comments right above Erica's name. Let me know when you're with me.
Okay, right, yep.
So those were not visitors' comments, those were just comments because I opened the public hearing, so that should just be taken away. It was not visitors' comments, the visitors' comments were up above.
Yeah, I'm just public hearing comments.
Okay.
I haven't found the part yet.
It's on the first page.
And then under resolution number 2023-30,
Yep,
where it says discussion,
okay,
you with me?
yep.
Okay, so past expenses for the revaluation were funded as part of the operating budget. It wasn't that it was not working, we were just changing the procedure. So I would just I would just strike was not working and created spikes.
Say that again.
So I would just put a period after operating budget. So past expenses for the revaluation were previously funded as part of the operating budget, period. Get rid of was not working, created spikes. These are my changes. Do you have a motion to approve as amended?
So move.
Motion by Phil, second by Jessica. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Old business. There's none on the agenda. Any counselor have any old business?
No.
New business. The first item under new business is Tim Widman, EDM Architects, Converse reuse costs.
Aye.
Yep. Tim Woodman with EDM. I was tasked to take a look at Converse School to see what potential for reuse there is, primarily focusing on what the code implications would be, what the renovations that would be triggered and that would have to occur as part of that reuse would be. So to that end, looked at potential use as senior center as well as office use, taking up the existing footprint. The building itself is about 100,000 square feet. There's more than enough real estate there to pretty much accommodate any program that you would be looking at accommodating within that building. The major broad brushstrokes in terms of what is triggered from a code perspective, the biggest one is that the building would require sprinklers. And then the second more complicated piece is that there are a number of elements within the building where fire partitions and barriers between spaces would need to be addressed. Outboard of that, there are a few things that are smaller related to renovations of the bathrooms, upgrading accessibility. Depending on the work that's done, there's energy components that may be required in the windows, the exterior wall, the roof, if that needed to be replaced as time went on. So there are a lot of bits and pieces throughout. A lot of the fabric of the building, while the structure itself is sound and in good shape, it would require full renovation. So that's kind of the foundation for the numbers you're going to see. So we worked with PMNC to put together a cost estimate based on those assumptions, and excluding pieces that we felt may or may not be an initial cost, like the roof, windows, getting into the envelope of the building itself. You're looking at an investment of approximately $14 million to accommodate just putting in a senior center and an office use within the building. Even if you were to imagine an instance where you only did the sprinkler component, you can see above that's almost $1 million on its own.
Sure.
In addition, if the roof is fairly old and if it has issues, that on its own is another 1.3. Windows, which many on the 1960s portion of the building are single pane, steel frame, not the best from the standpoint of energy. That's close to $2 million on its own. And then just getting into wall repairs for the exterior envelope, another $500,000 there. That's just a very broad overview of the entire, and I'll let you ask any questions you want, and we can kind of peel that apart if needed.
Questions?
So, as a developer, right, not even looking from a town point of view, but as a developer point of view, these are kind of the numbers that I would, if I were going to make an investment into Converse Middle School, be looking at.
Yes. Yes, they would need to put a comparable investment into the building to make it usable.
So you, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just,
No, I was saying, so you're saying to make it useful, basically up to code. So does that include all remediation for like maybe lead-based paint, asbestos tiles?
That is
lead
one of the
glass?
things that is excluded.
It's
So-
excluded.
right.
So it'd be
because
in
we didn't-
addition to the 14 million.
Exactly.
oh,
That's pretty much what I thought.
Which that I know at least from the basement is a significant
There's,
piece.
right, because of the asbestos there,
Yes.
and, right, and the age of it.
Mold.
Okay.
The demolition contractors that I also had take a look at the building priced the environmental abatement at between 500 and 600,000. But that was without doing full investigation. They didn't put any holes in any walls or anything like that yet. That was the next step. But their conservative estimate was like 500 or 600,000.
Anybody else?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
What's the next steps on this now?
I was just gonna say, not from,
not from
this
you.
gentleman's point of view, but from
Oh,
a
right,
council
that's-
point of view, like, where do we go from here?
So before we get there, so are you aware, are there any grant opportunities that you're aware of that when a town, like, if the town was to retain the building, that would cover any of these? Because I know, like, if we opened it up to a developer, there's different programs available for them to get
Yes.
funding.
So I've seen similar buildings go through a similar approach, follow and chase grants. I haven't actually seen them win those grants yet, but there are various ones, whether it's due to energy in terms of just green building and improving the building itself and the envelope, the systems. Those are area of interest. And then the other that I've seen has dealt with low-income housing, affordable housing.
Right. So to your knowledge, is there little or any federal or state funds for senior housing? Because I know we explored that a while ago and we had no success.
I've heard there is money there. Granted, the few cases I've heard of, specifically, I've dealt with Adams chasing that and have not had luck so far.
That's the same with our
Was that the
pursuit.
town, though, of Adams
Yes.
looking for it? So they
Yes.
they didn't sell the building?
They
or-
hadn't sold it. They actually, as far as I know right now, they were talking with a developer, and I have not heard that they've won it that way either.
Okay.
But they'd still retain ownership of the building.
Currently, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Is it easier for a developer to get those grants versus a town or?
I can't speak to that myself. It depends on which specific grant you're going after.
Do you know of any schools that have turned into housing or anything like that? Has any of them been successful or are they all?
I've seen many studies that have looked at doing exactly what we're talking about right here. I have yet to see one actually go through to construction.
So what do they do with theirs? Tear them down or?
In many cases, yes. And like in the example I
Nice
gave
building,
for
yeah.
Adams, they've actually occupied a portion of it by their Council of Aging, and then the rest of the building they've essentially mothballed.
So there's a school in Southbridge that was, it's an old school that was renovated into housing. It's like, I don't know, like the center of their main street. If you go up one, I don't know the name of the street, but it's a street to the left. That was renovated into affordable housing. My understanding on like grant opportunities for a private developer is like it's a multi-year process. So you don't like apply today and in 6 months you have the money. But that there is money available for private developers.
Like a
to-
4-year.
It's a process,
Like a phased-in kind of project, something like that.
Funding.
funding,
Big
till you get all the
company pay
funding.
for it up front and then go for funding after they started working
No, I
it?
believe you,
No.
they usually wait till they
Huge
have all the
companies that
they
do
wait till the
that.
funding
They
mechanisms
purchased
are
it
in
from
place.
Southbridge
Yeah,
and then spent years getting the money together to
like how
redo
many
it.
years?
I think you said 3.5.
Three, yeah.
But it was mixed income over 55 is
Right.
what they did for that one.
And wasn't that building a single, in other words, like Converse is two phases, one's 100 years old, the other one's whatever.
yeah, I don't
But
know.
I think it was all like originally a 100-year-old building,
I don't know,
so.
there was an article about the whole, recently, well, I shouldn't say recently, it was probably like 6 or 8 months ago. I think I might have sent it to you a while ago.
I just did a quick search and it came up, a recent article back in August, it looks like that they just did on it. I'm just I did a quick Google search of like schools that did, or
Yeah.
towns that turned old school buildings into senior housing. And we
But-
have Auburn, Southbridge, the town of Webster. So it looks like there's several communities that have turned old historic school buildings into affordable housing
Through private development.
through a private developer.
On
I've
State
seen a
Street in
couple in
Springfield, they did a
Chicopee, I think.
beautiful job.
Chicopee
with
has them.
condos
There was one
and-
right around the corner from me when I lived in Chicopee.
Correct, but just to be clear for everyone here and watching, it's affordable housing, not senior housing. Okay, just want to get that there.
So, next steps. We got numbers.
Sell it.
There's options, sell it, community open space, the town takes it over, demolishes the building, makes an open community space there. I think at this point, this is third or fourth time we've gone this round, 3 or 4 years now, we're expending capital on that building. I mean, there's other options, but I think it's clearly time to move on, especially after Tim's information, which pretty much solidifies, not just even if the town wanted to retain it, to get it back up to code. I highly doubt taxpayers would go for a 2.5 override for $18 million to try to just make it a senior center at all and a basketball court, just my opinion. But I think it's time to move on.
I'd like us to pursue this, the guys who talked to, the guys who did the Sturbridge, Southbridge, sorry.
Southbridge.
Because they also have property right next to it where they took an old mill and they did the same thing. Not next to it, but down the street.
I can ask my friend that runs things like that. I think they already made an offer on that building years ago, but maybe I'll
Just
tell
to-
them again.
Just to put this in perspective, how much did the police department cost us on 2.5% over?
I don't know, I don't remember.
What was that?
Far less than 18 million.
That's where I'm going with this.
No, I know. And by the time we decide, it's not going to be 18 million because this takes time.
Right.
So to get the contract, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I
go
was,
ahead.
I think we're probably well beyond 18 million, because it's 14 for the initial costs.
Correct.
and
Without
then
a roof.
if- and
Without-
that's
Without a roof.
without a
Right.
roof,
Without
without window
renovation.
replacement,
Yeah.
and without
More like
exterior
20.
work.
So you're into the
20 million.
20s
So we're probably,
easily.
you know, at
Right.
20 plus whatever, and then there's always the whole contingency of once you get in there, what do you find?
Right.
And then construction costs right now for renovation costs are extremely high. So even projects that have been funded with cost estimates like what Tim did, a lot of them are coming in well over bid, just because of construction costs. So now, Ryan, you have been working on some proposals for the reuse.
Yep.
Where do you, like, how, at what point could you, if we voted tonight to move forward with trying to sell the building and trying to get someone to come in for affordable housing, how quickly could you get an RFP or to hit the streets? At what point are you at with the work you've done?
I could put an RFP out tomorrow. I already have it written. I have to advertise it for about 30 days. We already have the appraisal done from 2018. That's still good. So a couple of the initial steps are already done. And then I could... the RFP looks very similar to the one that I wrote for Thorndike Grammar. I mean, all the evaluative criteria is the same. So yeah, I mean, I could get it in the Central Register, local newspaper, all that stuff rolling tomorrow.
I think
Well,
it's.
I mean, whatever the submission things are for the paper.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
think it's important that this is different than selling it to somebody that's going to have a class or whatever, right? We've seen all of our other schools are sitting here doing weird stuff, and
Right.
this is going. We would look at
I think we need to.
full-on development.
Yeah, I
and-
think we need to, if we're gonna, I think, I feel like we as a council have done our due diligence at this point in time. We've talked about it a lot. We've had community meetings. We've gotten input from the public as to what they'd like to do. The intention was to try to reuse it for town use. The cost is prohibitive. I mean, we can't afford a 20 million plus project. Even repaying the debt over 20 years is just 20
Astronomical.
$1 million
Right.
plus dollars a year.
Because we still need a DPW building.
So,
Correct.
so we have that. But I think that I'm not willing to go down the path that was gone with all the other neighborhood schools when they were sold, which was whatever the price, I don't know what the prices were back then, but they were minimal. And then they sat and they basically fell apart. And we still have some of them sitting today. So
I won't support that.
No, so I would like to see that we are paid the fair market value for the building, because then I think that the people that come forward to develop will actually be serious about the building. I also think that my understanding from the minimal research that I've done on this is that when they go to apply for tax credits and other funding, that the cost of, so if, I'm just going to throw out a number, that doesn't mean it's the number, but if you pay $1 million for something, that $1 million then goes into all the packet of information that you put together towards the funding. So you agree with that statement? Okay. So I don't think that we have to look at that we're going to give something away just so that it can be developed. So that's the route I don't want to go. I also think that if we're going to go down this route, I would like to schedule another meeting, even if it's next week or whatever, to actually review the document that Ryan's putting together so that we make sure that it's comprehensive of what we believe we want. I also don't know, Ryan, if you can you reach out to, like, town of Southbridge or the other towns that were just kind of, I don't know which ones you said,
Auburn?
that Jessica said, to see what their requests for proposals looked like, and maybe just to make sure we're crossing all the paths of what needs to be in it. I think that that's important.
Yep, and I also want to, during our community meetings, a lot of the neighbors came out to voice their concerns. Now, we did keep in mind, we did change that to highway business, but that doesn't mean that it has to be a highway business. It
No,
was
it would
just
be
to make that
residential.
property more marketable.
You wouldn't be able to make it a housing project without highway business. Neighborhood residential wasn't going to subvert a commercial
All
housing.
I'm saying is that I support the residents' concern that whatever goes in there, we need to be, because there are so many residents in the nearest city, that whatever we decide takes in account the concerns from the neighbors. That's all I'm saying.
Also, doesn't mean we're not getting rid of Legion. We're not getting rid of the
Right.
ball fields. We're
Not
getting rid of that.
necessarily. It may be, though.
I don't think we have to.
I don't,
think
I
we
would not,
Ryan-
I would not support
Ryan, do we
that.
have his information in our packet tonight?
Yes.
But we're not gonna nickel
Okay,
and dime,
thank you.
Oh, no, I
you know,
agree.
like the last time, so.
I agree.
But I think too, though, as far as if we end up selling the property, if we go through all the steps and that's what happens, then I think that, at least I know I am committed to, we are cognizant of that school is used for basketball, and that we would then have ample opportunity to, if we have to build something for basketball or whatever else, we could do that. I mean, if we're gonna sell this property at fair market value, then hopefully we can take that money that we get from the sale and put it into, whether it's Burley Park or some other location, putting accommodations, because I know how important the basketball program is to this community, and that is the only place where all those kids can play. So I don't want people to think, if we're moving forward with this option, that there's not going to be any options. But I also have no intention of getting rid of any of the fields at Legion, the baseball, softball, anything. That's not an option. We've just put a lot of money into the bleachers up there, and that also, in my opinion, is an important part of this community. And I think that whoever, if we are lucky enough to get bids for the school, I think that, they would need to understand that. And I think also that we would identify that as part of our proposal, that it abuts probably town fields that we are going to maintain.
That is already written
Yeah.
in the RFP.
Yeah, so,
I can make the gym an if this and or that type of proposal scenario where developers can do their best to try to propose retaining community use of the gym. But I would also leave it up to a developer to say, look, I just can't make the cash flow work if I can't have this space. So the previous housing proposal or the previous idea put together by the consultant was you can fit 67 units.
Right.
Maybe a developer could fit more. I don't know entirely what those discussions were like, but 67 units was the previous model at approximately $500,000 total development cost per unit. That's a $30 million project, which to me, that's in line with the other housing developments that I've seen happen in public buildings right now. Today's prices is about 35 million for 90,000 square feet. Right, Tim? That sounds logical.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's all going to come down to a developer being able to make a profit.
so
I would, sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I just want, the school, the one in Southbridge that we were talking about was 25.7 million in the article that I just brought up, and that was in 2020. So,
How many units of housing?
I just,
Because it's usually calculated total development cost per unit.
I just
It's at least
lost,
60.
I just lost the article. I'll get it back.
Oh wait, I think I still have
This
this one.
sounds
open.
long.
I don't know what just happened to it, why that happened.
Another thing that I want to mention
62.
Something.
really quick is that
So that's probably about 500,000 for
It says it's a 90,000 square foot building.
And it was 106 years old.
Yeah, and
So
it had
I feel like it's very similar to what
60,
we're looking
yeah.
at.
So another quick comment I want to make, that CPA funds would have been a good project for this, if the town of Palmer had CPA.
You think we'd get $30 million?
No, I'm just saying that this is a project that would qualify for spending CPA money on.
Parts of it, yeah.
Parts of it that we're leaving on the table every year because Palmer has not enacted the Community Preservation Act.
Right.
My only comment is I wouldn't limit it to the gym. I would maybe just say some type of public thing.
So I had looked back, I had asked Ryan to send me a proposal that had gone out back in whatever year that was, I don't,
2018.
yeah. And in reading the proposal, I see why we didn't get any bids. I think we were too, we wanted too many things to happen.
Right.
And I think that I would rather see what we get for bids, and then when we have a developer, maybe talk about options. But I think also that I don't think it necessarily matters if there's a basketball court in that building or just somewhere else.
Right.
And, you know, and I know it wasn't just the basketball court, it was access for like the football team, for the locker rooms and different things. But we may have to just look at a different
Emergency
option.
shelter.
Because I think, right, but we have. I think if we are so specific, we're gonna go down the same road we went down in 2018.
Right.
Agreed.
Which is, no one's gonna bid because
Agreed.
we're trying to do too much with keeping it. And I think we have to just look at other options for those uses.
So when I advertise the RFP, I'm going to write it as those things are qualitative, evaluative, you know, things that you can evaluate, right? What is your proposal for the basketball court? If you can propose a public access, or if you can retain public access and use, it would be highly advantageous, right? I want to make sure that I write all of those options for everybody so that if we do get a developer or more than one developer and we select one of them and then we start negotiating with them, I don't want anybody to protest and say, well, I didn't know that was an option. I could have also had the same sort of proposal as that other person. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands when they're bidding on, when they're putting in proposals, that it's sort of like an ad alternate. If you can do this, great. But if it's absolutely not possible, let us know that as well.
I just wouldn't even put that in
That's
there.
what I'm thinking, that we just.
We should solve, if we get $1 million, whatever. I'm
It's
not
just the
saying.
number I threw out.
That's enough to put something
Okay, well,
somewhere.
then I'll say, hey, we're
What's
not
the
trying to keep the
what's the
best
Because we
assessed
saw,
value of
you know,
Congress?
they took their gym. and
1.2
turned
million.
No, that was your
6
guess.
additional units, so.
Well, I just would agree with Counselor Berry that the more we limit it, the less developers we may get. So let's at least get the conversation going, and then, like Mark said, we can kind of narrow the field after that. My biggest fear is that we're gonna get nobody again.
I hope not.
Well, I hope not too. That's why we can't narrow the scope and say, you know, come investigate this property, but we want this, we want this, we want this, you can't touch that, you can't touch that. Then, to Barbara's point, we're in the same boat as 5 years ago.
I think a community with an exit off the Mass Pike, this being centrally located, good traffic routes, I'm actually very confident that you'll get 1 or 2 bites at that apple.
So, all right, so can we,
I will email it to you guys tomorrow.
and then we can set up a meeting for
Sure.
maybe next week.
That's Monday.
Are you okay with that, Matt? I know you're gonna be away.
I'm leaving on the 28th. I won't be back till the 13th.
So you will be here for Monday if we have a
Yes,
meeting?
I'll be
Okay.
here Monday.
Perfect. So is everybody okay with that?
Yep, same time or 6?
It'll be okay, Phil.
Yeah, it's just my birthday.
I gotta have enough time
Happy
to post it.
birthday to you.
We'll bring a cake.
I'll bring you some beer.
Good Lord.
It's a Monday.
Hey,
Are you okay? That'll be the
yeah, I'm
only,
taking the
it'll,
day off anyway. I
it'll
ain't
be the
working,
only,
working.
it'll be the only agenda item. That's all we'll talk about.
Are you gonna be 63?
Yeah. Oh, fuck.
All right, so.
So
are we
we're doing
voting
6P or
to-
6:30?
Do you want to do 6 o'clock on Monday?
Do I
That
have
works.
something else on the 23rd?
Anytime.
Is there something else in here?
No, I'm trying to remember what my calendar at my desk calendar looks
Well, we
like.
can figure that out, but let's shoot
Let's
for
do
that.
Monday
Yeah.
for 6.
Any other questions for Tim?
Say 6 or 6:30.
Thank you, 6.
You're welcome.
Thank you, definitely.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, the numbers are a huge help.
Thank you,
Yes,
Because now we can
massive help.
quantify,
Yes.
right?
So you can
Before
look
it
for the
was just
RFP
like, hey, we have a building, we want to do something with it, and we never had numbers to back it up.
Okay, so we actually did the second agenda item as part of the first, but that's okay. So then next is authorize the town manager to issue request for proposal for Thorndike Grammar, 4023 Main Street.
So for this one, I have had a couple of developers interested. I've met with these developers. I've talked through their plans. I'm not going to say all of them are not far-fetched, but there's enough there that if I put out an RFP, we'll get some legitimate bites at the apple. And it's for housing.
So I feel the same way about this one of what I just said about Converse, that I, again, am not willing to give it away for $1. I think that they should have to offer a price of what they're willing to pay, because I'm very concerned that there's going to be, someone's going to buy the property and then they're not going to develop it, and it's just going to sit there and continue to deteriorate.
This one I do have to get an appraisal for.
Okay, well then if we need to do that before you put the
I do. I
RFP
have
out.
to do that, yeah.
Anytime you give somebody something for free, it's real easy if they see failure to just walk away.
Right.
Whether it's free schooling, whatever, you know?
So, then maybe what we should do is, authorize, the town manager to get an
Yes,
appraisal.
appraisal.
Yep, an appraisal for this property. And then, I don't know how quickly that can happen.
I've started reaching out to some appraisal firms. So yeah, I haven't gotten some quotes back to me yet. I'm hoping this week I'll get at least 2 quotes.
Okay, so that's great. So if you have the information available, then we can discuss this in further detail on the 25th too, because I believe they go hand in hand.
There's 2 items.
Yeah,
They're the same item,
I
yeah.
can hope to get an appraisal
Yeah,
done by
but
the
if you
26th.
don't,
Yeah.
that's fine. But you also have a draft that you put together
yes.
for this, so if you could get that out to the council too, to
Wouldn't
review.
the tax department have an assessed value of the?
That's assessed value, but
No,
that's not
yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah, see, and
the
then
cost.
so
Market
and this is also an issue with Converse. So that 1.2 whatever something, just under 1.3 million appraisals from 2018, 2017. I mean, there is depreciation. I would say, that could be 900,000 by now. I can do an RFP with the appraisal we have, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that being an accurate,
No, I'd agree.
So then we need to do 2
Another
appraisals.
appraisal, correct. Because that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, so,
Interest rates were low and.
so I think that's what we do,
Yep.
is we get 2 appraisals.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Well,
we can-
I'll
but
try
we
to
can still-
I'll try to do it at the same time. So
We
I
can
get
still
it on
review
scale.
both RFPs on Monday, and
Right,
then he
right.
just needs to insert the assessed value or the appraisal value, okay. All right, anything else on that?
No.
Okay, next, is regarding, purchasing parcel L47 on Flint Street, which is currently owned by the Thorndike Fire and Water District.
Yeah, so that's the land that they logged a year or 2 ago. I know Councilor Sizer was concerned about that. So we've been looking into this land since then. We've had numerous conversations with the Thorndike Water District. It's directly, basically part of Burley Park.
It what's the backside of it?
Right. And with the logging work that they've had done, that actually kind of is in line with what we've been thinking about doing with that parcel, is putting in a disc golf course. And we've actually had some disc golf course developers go out and walk the land, and they said it would be a really good course. So,
So is Thorndike Fire looking to issue proposals for purchasing the land?
yes, I will have to help them with it. They are not as well versed in 30B Section 16. But they have expressed interest in considering the land surplus to their needs.
Okay.
So they haven't come with a price yet?
They haven't given, well, they would put out like an RFP for bids. So do we know what that property is worth?
Said 19.
The assessed value of that property is $19,200. So, I mean, I can go get an appraisal of it as well. I mean, I can use an assessed value for this type of purpose. I don't think we would get an accurate appraisal price because it's vacant land. It's been logged. I mean, if it's sort of like if this is the use, this could be the value. If this is the use, this could be the value.
How many acres is it?
Oh, it is. Where did they put the acres on this thing?
Usually in the middle.
It was like 10.
I think it's
Really?
10.
Yep,
10 acres.
Is that up for sale? That's cheap.
They ain't gonna let it go for that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had any conversations with them about price. It's only about intent.
Yeah.
Because somewhere down the line, somewhere I remember, I don't know if it was like that, but there was.
I mean, it's
something
landlocked,
done-
non-buildable.
Whether it was the water department figured it out or whatever, what could actually be put, how many an apartment complex.
Nothing can be put there. It's non-buildable.
They don't have the frontage, right?
There's zero access. Yeah,
Yes.
it's got no access to have
The other
a
street
driveway.
does.
Off of Flint.
Yeah, there was that.
Backside street,
Yeah, next to
that
Elizabeth.
like little,
Right.
Elizabeth Circle, isn't it?
circle, yeah. I don't know if it's Elizabeth Circle, but it is like
I think it's,
a dead end
I think that's what it is.
circle.
Yeah.
It's Danielle Drive,
Danielle Drive.
Danielle, that's it.
I know it was over there.
yeah.
So my question is, great, intent is great, and we're negotiating, but where are we getting the money to pay for
We're not
it?
negotiating anything
No.
at this point.
We haven't done that yet.
But you went out to them to see if it was for sale.
Yeah. Just,
Right.
Yeah.
So when that time comes, how are we funding it? I'm just curious where the money's coming from, that's all.
Don't
Have we
have-
thought that far ahead?
Not yet.
Okay, no, just,
But I think that there's two things. So one is, before, we would have to have an executive session to talk about how much, I mean, this would be, if we're looking at doing a land purchase, that would be under executive session as to how much we're willing to bid on it and buy it for. So, I mean, those are the things we wouldn't talk about publicly.
no, I'm just curious on where the funding would come from, that's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we have basically, what are our options? Free cash if it's available, or stabilization probably,
Or go out for a loan, but,
depending how much it is. But if it's
Right.
assessed
I'm
at,
just-
if it's assessed at 19,000 and it's they have no access and it's not buildable, then it's not gonna be worth $1 million.
I'm just curious, that's all.
Yeah. So, all right, so I think that, again, that is for further discussion, but is there interest in at least pursuing potentially?
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah,
the
we're
harm.
just-
Yeah, certainly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right.
Especially since it abuts the park.
Early park, right.
It's going to
And has-
expand our recreational area.
Has basically been a part of Burley Park forever
Right.
until they started logging it and we found out that it wasn't
that's
technically a
not
part
Burley
of
Park.
Burley Park.
Right.
Okay, so we will, more discussion will have to happen on that. All right, next item is acceptance of $1,350,000 CDBG grant. John, did you want to talk about this, or?
No, you can take off, Tim. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I mean, you're welcome to stay if you find this eminently fascinating.
He's waiting for the
I have to leave,
RFP.
but you can't stay sitting there.
So as you may have found out or heard, the 1.35 million was awarded around August 28th. So what that entails is infrastructure for Maple Street. It's designed for Maple Street and Maple Terrace, but the actual work is going to be Maple Street. And Maple Terrace will be under the next grant round for the repairs and replacement of the sewer and water lines. That constitutes the bulk of the grant, the 1.35 million. The anticipated cost for the road improvements are $995,000 is what we have for an estimate. We also have domestic violence services and transportation, social services in there, and general admin. If you have any questions, I can answer anything that you might have.
Matt?
So is this where the funds are coming from for the improvements at Depot Park?
Improvements at Depot Park.
It's a different grant.
Depot Park.
That was
Sorry,
under
I kept thinking of
the
Hernevitz
prior
Park.
grant year. Currently, right now, we have, and you see in the end part of your packet, we have essentially 5 open grants. When I came, there were 4.
Right.
So now we have 2 that are closed. We're just waiting for a letter from the state that says they're closed. Everything's been reconciled. And then the FY20, that was FY19 and the COVID-20 grant monies. Now, FY20 was for the design of Hernevitz Park, is one of the key components. And then the FY21 grant was the actual park improvements that you see there now.
Got it.
And this is under the FY22-23. They combined 2 grant years into one.
And Depot's under 22, right?
Depot is under 21.
Yeah. Oh, 21. Okay.
Curious about the balances left after Hernevitz, but we don't have to do that now. If you don't know, I'd like an email
It should
maybe.
be in your packet.
The balances left from
Yeah.
21?
Yep, it's on the very last page. So it's the FY20, FY21 grant balances. It's not fully expended yet, but that's the anticipation that we will have fully expended all those funds. We have an extension now until next June for FY21. We have an extension until December of '23 for the FY20 to complete the housing rehab portion of that. It's the only funding that's left in the FY20.
So then my question would be is why did we downsize the scale of the project at Hernevitz if we have money left in the grant? And why didn't we get the extras that we asked for if there was money left in the grant?
On the technicals, we didn't have money remaining. We had minimal funds left from that contingency, and that was about it. And some of that money was used to do the sidewalks and some of the items that you see there. But the scope and the amount of those grants that in prior years was $825,000. So the full estimate, I think, for the park, and I wasn't here for that, was well above that.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. I know it was multiple years that went into it, so I was just curious because there were some asks at the end that we were told there was no money left for, so we were just kind of curious. That's all.
Yeah. And what were those asks?
Lighting, right? We wanted to do lighting at the park. And then I can't remember what the other one was. Maybe.
Cameras.
No, we're not talking
wasn't
cameras.
cameras.
You're
Yes.
talking to me.
I'm looking toward you because I know we were
I
talking.
wasn't
Right.
sure if you were looking at me or him.
Nope.
Okay. Brick sidewalk versus a cement sidewalk was one of the things we talked about.
Right.
But
But lighting is a major concern.
lighting was the major
Yeah,
thing
that's a
to
main
have, to
thing.
have
Okay.
lighting along
Right.
the walkway.
Yeah. So all right. Well, I will mark down lighting in my notes, and we'll work on that for.
Yeah, lighting for Hernevitz, yeah.
But one of the things too, so on here it says, so for the playground, there's, it was 449, 498, you used 438, so you spent like 97.5%, a little more. So that money's still available or not?
It is encumbered, so not everything's been invoiced. So as you see, as it starts to close, you'll see those figures we're 65% spent, 68% spent. So there are still invoices coming in for Hernevitz and Depot Park. And Depot Park is included in that figure.
In the 2021?
In the
Grant
2021,
numbers that I'm
the
looking at?
playground figure.
Okay, because I mean, one of the things that we had talked about was getting some type of canopy over the playground, just to have, so the sun wasn't beating down on the kids when they were playing. I don't remember what you told me the price of that was, but I know you had said that you had looked into that. I mean, is there any chance that, I mean, and obviously we don't need it now till next year, but is there any chance that there would be funds available out of this money to be able to purchase that?
Most likely not under the 2021, because everything's been pretty much encumbered.
Okay, so 100% is encumbered, you're just waiting for bills, okay. Okay. So I think that was definitely something that, and then also, I mean, there's a lot of sun all over the park, so I know a lot of trees came down, but it doesn't seem as if we planted to replace the trees that were taken down, so that would be something that we should probably start thinking about also.
They were in the
And then-
plan. I saw them in the pictures. They were in the plan. I just don't think they all got in yet.
We planted, I believe, 5 trees. So, and you can see them throughout the newer part of the park. The plan that they had in place before, and some of those trees that they had to take down were because of condition.
No, I understand that,
So,
yeah.
but there's nothing to say that going forward, there can't be a tree planting as needed, as appropriated.
And then the other thing that we had talked about was additional seating.
Correct,
So-
benches, but they were
I
very
know-
expensive, you said, right.
But I know too that there's a concern that, you know, of having the seating on the side of the road. So if I'm facing the park and it's in front of me, so there's all houses on the left-hand side, to put seating more towards whatever street that is going.
Maple,
Is that Maples? No,
or the one in
no,
the back?
Maple's in the back, right?
Maple's on the
goes
side.
Goes all the way up
Front
towards
street.
Lake.
Flint, yeah.
Flint?
Flint,
Not
no,
Flint.
Flint is
Oh.
here.
No,
Oh,
Front
Sorry,
Street.
front
Front
street.
Street. Front Street is on the back side of the park,
Yep.
and you have Maple on,
Okay,
The side.
so, but to put the seating more on that side as opposed to people congregating directly in front of people's homes on the other side. So, I mean, I think those are things that we had talked about as to, you know, looking for additional funds to do those type of things.
correct. And then my last question would be, is normally, or in the past, I should say, because things are different now, people have changed positions and moved in and out. We have always left some sort of park in the grant schedule. Like there was always some sort of park improvement that was always left in the grant schedule so that we're always constantly improving things. But I noticed for the 22 to 23 grant, there is nothing about parks in there at all anymore. There's nothing at all.
We're no longer a mini entitlement community.
Okay.
So this $1.35 million was competitively acquired.
So it's
And-
not guaranteed, you're saying every year.
Correct.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can plan for we can plan for parks going forward as we put in competitive applications, but unless and until we get our mini entitlement status back, each application has to be fully spelled out when we apply.
So just as an example, in order to get the qualifying information for this grant, we had to do a door-to-door income survey for Maple Street and Maple Terrace.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a lot of
we were
work.
very fortunate, and it was a strategy of providing them the pictures of what the piping that they get their water from and the sewer and their street and what it could look like. The whole neighborhood was very responsive and very cooperative, and Scott Turner actually lives in that neighborhood, and he came around with us, and so that was very successful. Otherwise, competitive scoring, low income wise, it wouldn't have risen to the level that it did. And I think we were number 2 or 3 from the
Three.
top.
Yeah.
So
number 3.
years ago, I don't know if it was Linda or if it was coming from community development, where Three Rivers is actually classified as a low-income tract, the entire village, which is supposedly supposed to help with development. Like there's grant funding available because we are classified as low income.
It makes it, like for the mini entitlement, it makes it easier to signify that census tract. But if you're doing an overall project, like a sidewalk is very difficult in this instance where you have to provide documentation that it's actually low-income people.
That are gonna
That are
benefit.
using
That's why the income
Got it.
survey had to happen.
Understood. I got it now. Yeah.
So the only other route would be slum and blight designation. People are resistant to it, I can understand why, but that takes out the income survey, which is very time-consuming and difficult, because if you don't get all the respondents back, you can't go forward with that project or that proposal.
Gotcha. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, I always used slum and blight in Fitchburg because there was zero chance I was going to get respondents in certain neighborhoods and those were all the neighborhoods that were be applicable to do affordable housing projects. So
Gotcha.
yeah, we're lucky. I mean, and I think we had like an 80 something % response.
They
so
were very cooperative. Strange-looking guy like me knocking on your door. I mean, and we went door to door And mostly everybody was home, cooperative. There were some houses that we couldn't get to, but we got the level of respondents that we needed.
Nice. And congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John,
thank
that's,
you for
I mean,
that.
that's great.
That's
And
a lot
and
of
I
effort.
think, same thing with Scott. I'm sure it helped that you had a face with you that people
That's why, yeah.
recognized, and
Right.
that's always,
Chief.
so I know he's probably, I don't even think he lives here anymore, right?
I
But
don't think so.
if you could maybe share with him, or either you or Ryan, that,
I
I
did,
mean,
yeah.
yeah, but from the
good.
council, because I think that really probably went a long way to
terrific.
get you to get
Put it over the
that
top.
80%, yeah.
Yeah.
And so with that, if we want to approach the slum and blight issue, we'd have to have a public hearing. We'd have to go that route so the residents could respond to it. And we could list out the pros and cons of doing that. And maybe that would be helpful. But a project like this, along with playgrounds, but the infrastructure, like next grant round, Maple Terrace will be in that grant round. And then we do design for 2 more streets within all the.
Which should be Front and Foster.
Well, it could be Front or Foster, it could be one of the other neighborhoods or water supplies. But we can do kind of a leapfrog and try to do an improvement in an area that's gonna be very comprehensive and complete. And we'll still get seating for the playground because you can raise money and commemorative benches and different things. I've already talked to Andrew and Matt, so we're gonna try to do things like that to try to get picnic tables and benches.
Yeah, I would like to get cost estimates for the lighting, what that would be, as well as the canopy that we talked about over the playground and some benches. But I mean, I'm assuming that the original plan, the design work that was done had the locations of where they were suggesting plantings as well as like benches or picnic tables. I'd like to revisit that and see what that cost really is, because there was another option available that we did not pursue, because I did not get cost estimates, and I'd like to pursue that. It'll be a year from a few months ago, but we did have that option available, and we were told that we had enough money to do all those things, which obviously now is not the case. So if you could get that information, that would be very helpful, I think.
I have the estimate on the electrical, the lighting, and the electrical, because the boxes need attention.
But does that include like the decorative lighting, like the actual lamp posts and stuff?
It does not.
Yeah,
It was
that's what we're-
to improve what's there.
Yeah, no, we were looking
Right.
at doing decorative
upgrade.
lighting.
And with technology changing all the time, I mean, there's so many companies out there offering solar options where we won't have to, put groundwork in, and we won't have to put electrical in and things like that. So
But I think if we could work on that and just, see what those costs is, and then, I mean, for me, I would absolutely like to buy that canopy system before we get into the next year of, for spring, so that, like I said, I mean, that sun beats, and this was a really hot summer.
Yes.
And I mean, there's just nothing.
To
are you just talking about poles and a canvas thing that stretches out? Because
It
I've seen
stretches out.
those.
So I had talked to
Sails.
John at
Yeah, the sail,
at
yeah.
the grand opening, and he talked about doing it from one to the other, that he had actually looked at that a little, so.
Right.
I think it would have to be put up and then taken down. It wouldn't be,
Like a permanent.
it wouldn't be a permanent fixture,
Seasonal.
but,
They have the same thing at the one of the Belchertown parks too.
okay. But I would like to pursue that and not wait for a grant, but actually just come up with the money to be able to do that.
Okay, we'll get
So-
costs.
I saw Miss Big Wife for $49.99.
Did you mention the train?
Well, the train, and I'd like to mention a couple of things. The train, the DPW picked it up this morning and brought it to Palmer High School, and the Palmer High School Special Ed Department is renovating the wooden train from Depot Park. It needs some attention, some paint, and some replacement of lumber and different things, but this is something that we tried to make happen last year, and it was in the middle of the school year, so we were able to do it this year. And very, very good program, thrilled that they took it on.
Great.
Awesome.
And the other thing that Palmer High School has that we're taking advantage of is the intern program, the school to career program. So we've had an intern, he was with us the end of last semester. He's not due back until the January semester. He worked over the summer. We've retained him as a temporary help. It's been a great relationship with Karen Ante from Palmer High School. The health department now has an intern. So one of the great things about it is they're getting to see the workings of the town, so, and where they live, and very community-minded. And it's a good example of the programs that the high school has and the students
Yeah, that's
and the
great.
teaching staff.
I'd like to see us tap into that opportunity at both schools.
So we're using Pathfinder.
Okay.
There's a student at DPW, correct, Matt?
Yes.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that we definitely should look into different opportunities.
Oh,
with-
yes.
With both, yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a big supporter of promoting internships here because that's how I got my start in this career field. So, and then I think the police department also runs like a mini police academy for students at Pathfinder as well. So
Right.
it's good to see that interaction from a lot of different angles in the town.
Anything else, John?
That's it. Any
Okay,
other
well,
questions?
thank you.
Oh,
That's
quite a
still
bit.
Sean that
I
you
know we
have
need to take
there?
a
With
vote.
Sean,
I will.
Yeah, he's a
Sean
good
worked-
man. He
yeah.
worked for me, yeah.
Great
He is.
person, great young man.
Yes.
I'd like to see what he's gonna, the interesting thing, the last thing I'll share is that we taught him how to do some environmental reviews and mapping, and that's what he wants, prior to learning that, we didn't know that. He wants to go into environmental science, that's one of his interests. So
Awesome.
that's how
Yeah, very cool.
that worked out.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Bob, do you want to read the resolution?
Sure.
Thank you.
Town Council Agenda, September 18th, 2023. Resolution number 2024-4. The purpose is to accept the FFY 2022/2023 Community Development Block Grant Award. Whereas the town of Palmer has been notified of its award of $1,350,000 in grant funds from the Massachusetts Community Development Block Grant Program. Whereas the town manager and town council wish to accept the grant and the terms and conditions of the same as outlined in the contract between the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and the town of Palmer. Whereas the proposed and accepted use of CDBG funds is as follows. Public facilities and infrastructure, $1,077,215. Public social services, $134,516. General administration, $138,269. Motion now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Palmer officially accepts the grant and the terms and conditions therewith. I will go forward and make that motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, great. Next item is, I'll get in a sec, citizen zoning petition for amendment to zoning additional cannabis retail. First reading.
Yeah, so I marked out the sections 1 and 2. Those were the amendments. So I think that's the only section that needs to be read.
I'm trying to find it here. Town of Palmer, Town Council petition for zone change. Please find the enclosed herewith petition for zone change by AD Mass 4 LLC as owner of 1140 Thorndike Street, Palmer, Mass, on behalf of their tenant, Green Gold Group, Inc. This zone change is submitted in order to improve the economic and community benefits to the town of Palmer by allowing for an additional marijuana retailer, thus creating jobs, adding to the property tax base, and contributing additional community impact funds under the host community agreement. A fourth location also adds an additional contributor to the 3% local option sales tax to the town of Palmer on cannabis sales. You want me to continue?
That's probably fine.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good too. Okay. Anybody, anything on that?
Nope, this is, just a quick comment. This is what we had, referred back to them, right?
Yes.
Okay, they came to us and we had to go back to zoning. Okay.
Yep.
So the property in question is the property on the corner of Lawrence Street and Thorndike Street?
Dr. Wolf.
Yes.
Former Dr.
So,
Wolf.
Perfect. Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Next is the appointment of the town council member to the master plan implementation committee. Is there anybody interested in serving on the master plan implementation committee?
What does that involve, Barbara? I know the master plan, or just input into that, or?
So it's reviewing the, so it's going through the master plan and looking at the different things that were recommended under the master plan, and then working with departments to make sure that they are implemented and move forward, so we don't just have a document of a master plan sitting on a shelf and not, never looking at it again. Mark had been the council rep, but he needed to step down. Are you
There's a member
are
in the
you
audience, yeah, Dave
I
Golden.
know, I'm getting there. Dave, are you the chair, or?
No, actually, chairless right now, right? No. Did you nominate? Amber took, okay.
Kupalanian? So how many members do you have at this point? Just the two of you? 4? Okay. Was there anything I didn't say that you want to add, or?
No, we meet once a month now, and we've got an agenda to meet with every different department or area of the town, just to go through what the master plan says relates to their department, and see what we can do to help them, what needs they may have. We met with conservation the other night, last week, and that went really well.
Which night of the week do you meet?
We're meeting, well, it's just changing, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I believe it's the 3rd now, because Patience Hartley is on the committee, and she's the chair of the Historic Commission. So we're trying to work around that. But I believe it's the 3rd Wednesday now.
I think that whoever puts steps forward, I think it's important just to make sure you attend every meeting and that you can commit yourself to being at every meeting, because otherwise the committee will fall apart if everyone's not there. I can't take anything else on with my work schedule, so
Same here.
I just can't.
I'm involved in so many other things in town that I can't take on anything else.
Anybody?
I would be happy if nobody else
I'll
wants
think
to.
about it if you wanna.
Yeah, if nobody else can, I would be happy to.
There you go.
Perfect.
She'll attend every
Happy to
meeting.
have you, Jessica.
Thank
Haven't
you.
been part of the master
Yeah.
plan
Yes,
committee.
I did. Yes, I was a part of the original master plan committee, so.
And
be
Carl,
good
that
to-
doesn't mean that you can't also attend the meetings,
Correct.
because
Oh, okay.
they're posted
Public
meetings and
meetings.
anybody can attend,
Yep.
so. Okay, so, Jessica, I know you're the member, thank you. I don't think we need a formal vote, I think we all are, yes.
Yep.
And I think
Oh, yeah.
you guys are still looking for a planning board member as well, right? Okay.
Could you maybe reach out to planning board and see if you can get them a member? Okay, next is policy on street acceptance and betterments. Ryan. Okay, Matt. Hi.
So I was working with Linda right before she left on this. A lot of this policy has to do with planning. It also got run by, yep, so. this-
Barry, do you have the microphone set so that they're going
Is that
towards the
better?
back?
Is that better?
It was the trash can. Yeah, you-
Oh,
Going the other direction, so.
Okay.
yeah, so it was just we had to, I was working with Linda before she left, and, good luck to Linda. And then it was also run through Brian, a town attorney. One of the biggest things we have here in town is we have a ton of private roads. They're privately owned, they're not owned by the public. And it's actually illegal for a DPW director to expend money on private ways. So we come to this situation where it happens a lot. We get calls in the office, hey, we have big potholes on my road, can you come and fix them? Well, as a DPW director, I can't legally spend money on, bituminous concrete to fill these potholes on private ways because it's private property. So it leaves us in a predicament where we have to have some sort of policy in place that, can allow us to do a betterment process or to repair private ways with and work with the people of the town. So I know this was probably a lot, and I don't know if you guys got through the entire policy or not. It's actually two separate ones. So one is like a policy on how, take a private road, for example, the residents who live on this road could actually petition the council to make a private way become a public way. And there's a process on that, which is here. And then the other policy is the unaccepted road betterment guide, which basically will set out guidelines to where the public would, or I should say, the town would implement a betterment on top of like a special tax that would, now the residents would be responsible to repair their road. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I know you guys just kind of got this. I don't know. Basically, at this point, I think we were looking for a little input from you guys to see what you thought on it. The town has nothing right now other than some planning board stuff. But yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or anything.
So in the past,
Yeah.
or I should say going forward before I give you what we've done in the past, how is that going to affect services for private roads? Are we still plowing, right?
Yes.
We're still doing all that?
Yeah, we still plow emergency vehicle access.
Right.
It's actually, a lot of people don't understand this either. It's a law that if the road isn't maintained to a certain standard, the town actually has the authority to stop servicing the road altogether, but we don't.
Right.
That's just stating the law.
Right.
But services, we try to keep it the best we can, but private roads in the past, things are different in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Things have gotten slidden under the rug. And I don't mean this in any disrespect to anybody in town, but the reason why people live on the private roads and they complain about them is because they're in bad shape. If these roads were in great shape, we wouldn't hear anything about it.
Right.
So essentially, they're hard to take care of, they cost a lot of money to repair, and they're looking for some help from the town. So I think part of this betterment guide, what the town can offer is using our resources as far as bidding out the prices, or our contract prices are gonna be a lot lower than they can get. And we can also go out and get loans for them, probably at a lower interest rate than they can do on their own.
So coming to my second part of my question was, the town in the past has been known to fill things, not with concrete or not with, but there are some dirt roads in town, and the town has been known in the past to come through and fill some of the bigger holes for neighbors. Are you saying that is not happening anymore?
That is not happening anymore, and the reason why is because we've had 20-something years of doing this, and these roads are in the condition now is because of what we've been doing for the last 20 years. There is, if somebody's going to complain about a certain road and say, oh, your past predecessors in the DPW are filling my potholes for the last 20 years, then why are we having the conversations right now about these roads in such terrible condition? That's where we're at. These roads foundations need to be fixed. We can't just keep putting blacktop inside holes.
Right.
You have no foundation, it doesn't stick, it only lasts, a month.
I know. So I think we only have one policy, and this was my concern with this, this seemed to be commingled and didn't make sense to me. So I think that there's three different things that I see. One is a policy for betterments, so that we can get this neighborhood that's looking to do a betterment moving, because it's been a really long time since we met with them initially. and I'd like to move forward with that. And so I think that that's something that we can easily do. And then the other two things is, one, the rules regarding an acceptance of a road in a new subdivision or new development, right? So those fall directly under the planning board with their regulations as to what things need to be done in order to be able to be accepted as a town road, which then the council would take a vote on. The second thing is existing private roads, if they wanted to become, which like these neighbors want to have their road, to see if we can ever accept it as a public way. So that's the third policy, because then that outlines specifically what would need to be done in order for that to happen. And there needs to be specifics that, you know, for a new subdivision, these are the rules, there's a bond put in place. If the developer doesn't finish the project, then the town goes into that bond and finishes the project for them, whether it's laying sidewalks, putting lighting in, whatever they walked away from, if that should happen. Or they do all the things on the checklist as part of their plan, and then it goes to planning board, they say, yes, you did all these things, and now it comes to the council for approval, right? So that's the first one. Second one being private road, existing private road, what does the neighborhood have to do to get the road up to a standard which then can come to the town to be accepted as a public way, right? And then the third is existing roads, regardless of if they're public or private, that they want an improvement, whether it's a drainage project, paving, sidewalks, water, sewer. Obviously, water doesn't apply here, but, and then what are the requirements in order to get a betterment for all of those things? Whether, the criteria of who's responsible, like all the things we talked about before with these individuals, of whose responsibility is it to get the cost estimate? What's the percentage we're gonna use as far as buy-in from the neighborhood that's looking for the improvement? I think, was it 75% you put in
75%,
here? So those to me are three totally distinct policies. And I know they're not ordinances, and I understand that, and I agree with that. But I look at it as three totally different things, and I'd like to see it as three totally different things, because like I said, when I was reading this, it seemed like the betterment was intermingled with the private way. And really, it doesn't matter whether it's a private way or a public way, we're still we need a betterment policy.
And then,
Yeah, no, that's good input.
and then what happens if the road can't be, like, say you can't get the road to the standards where it can be accepted as a public
And it would
road.
always be a private road.
Right, but
One of the biggest things we have here in town is, according to Mass DOT standard design guidelines, is you need a 50-foot right-of-way.
right,
if
so
we're
there
talking
are
about
going to
three
be roads where
streets,
people want to
three
develop them and make them better, but there will be stipulations where they can't, like, their road will not be or cannot be improved.
Right,
And
and
going forward,
And that's the discussion that we had with people on Lake Thompson, because a lot of those roads are just small roads.
right,
But
Yeah, they're
I
12,
think,
14, and 16 feet wide.
but I think too, we had a discussion also when we met with these people, that I understand that we can't go in there and pave their road, but we also have to make sure that it is passable for an ambulance or a fire truck. And so that was the reason that we were filling deep potholes and different things. So I understand that it's not improving the road in any way, but my opinion is we can't just abandon and say we're not going to go in there and do anything. We have to still make sure that it's passable for an emergency
Public safety.
vehicle.
I agree, but what's happening is the price of bituminous concrete now is through the roof. And it's gonna cost us, $4,000 to $6,000 every time we go out there with blacktop to throw it in a hole that's not gonna stick. So you might as well just throw it away.
I didn't think we were doing blacktop. I thought we were doing just fill. Like,
So I did millings because
Right, millings.
that's no cost to us. When we use recycling, so if we go mill a new road, we retain some of that milling so we can use it to fill some of the holes. But it's not long lasting. It doesn't
Right.
last a long time.
but something's better than nothing if
Right.
if it's not,
Then with that too, is you're gonna have to run out, every 2 weeks, go out there and fill this thing, or after every rainstorm to go fill these in?
Well, I don't think.
we don't
I
have the answer.
I don't.
Right, we have-
I don't think that was happening. I think the last time that DPW went out and did some improvements, and I don't think it was that the road was not paved, but holes were filled in, and that lasted, as far as I know, that lasted for not recent, look, we can't,
most recent one.
no, I'm not, I'm talking like when Jerry was still here, when we went out, that lasted a while.
It's still there.
It didn't wash away, like,
still
and,
there.
yeah, so, hold
Can I
on,
just clarify something?
quickly.
He said that, you know, that the roads themselves weren't withstanding the little repairs that some of the DPW directors that preceded him fixed. The only problems we ever had was when the DPW director back in 2016 and 17 was ousted, and Jerry came in, or what was his name, Steve? Jerry? The
Jerry.
last guy?
Jerry.
Came in. He's the one, at that time, we complained because they went into such disrepair. And Jerry took care of it. And you didn't hear from us again. And now, since Matt came in, they're in disrepair again because he stopped maintaining them. Once a year, $4,000 to $6,000 on residents that have just been given a tax bill, a tax increase.
Yeah, we're not gonna go down that road
We're
tonight.
paying an awful lot more in taxes. You can't spend $4,000 to $6,000 a year just to fill the potholes with real asphalt instead of the stuff that lasted 2 weeks when it came up last time. That's all we're asking for.
So.
Do that at the bare minimum.
So I think that's a bigger discussion than for right now, but I'd like to see these policies broken out into 3 distinct policies. I'd like the betterment one to be finalized first so that we can accept the policy and we can get back to this neighborhood that's looking to do a betterment with what percentage of residents they need to reach to be able to even go down that road. And then we can move forward. The other thing that I want to, I don't know if, like, when we talked about drainage issues and different things, and I know I'm not talking full-blown drainage, but when we talked about them potentially doing a road, actually going in and paving those roads, we didn't talk at all about conservation going in and like giving any opinion as to even if it's a swale or anything for runoff. We talked about the fact that if they put asphalt down, that it's potentially going to change where runoff is going and all that. But I think we need to get conservation involved with that also. I mean, we get them involved when we do a drainage project or a culvert project and all what we have to do on the side of the road when we change the flow of water. So I want to make sure that we do that
Yeah,
too.
and the full, I mean, and in the plan, in the policy here for the acceptance of the private road, that's all falls, that's part of,
I know, but I'm not talking
full
about
survey
that.
plan, that comes with all the engineered plans.
I'm talking a betterment
yeah.
though.
Yep, conservation.
Yeah. But yes, that would be totally different. That would be planned. That would be a huge thing, yeah.
So, yeah, we'll reach back out to Brian Falk and we will separate these.
Can I just make 2 quick comments? One is the largest runoff comes off of Flint into that lake. So if you're talking about any kind of drainage program, it needs to happen on Flint, which is a public way. And there's a culvert from the highway that goes under Flint from that pond that feeds Lake Thompson as well. And my second comment is something for history. The town paved that road in the 90s when the state mandated that we had to have sewers. So the town took ownership by paving those roads back then. The original paving on those roads was done by the town. It was dirt before that. So whose responsibility when the town paves a road is it to maintain it? That was the state that mandated that it had to have sewers.
Yeah, well, that was to protect the lake. So I think
Right,
it's two.
Which was great.
Yeah, so I think it's 2 different things, honestly, Dave. I think that the town never accepted the road as a public way. It was just a sewer project happened, and then as part of that project, they paved the road.
We were happy with it, well, I didn't. but-
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't understand.
She doesn't understand you. My watch just told me she doesn't understand.
What roads are we talking about, actually?
It's actually Farragon, French, and John. James.
All right, so I think that we have to get back to the neighborhood regarding the betterment and the public. I don't want to spend the meeting, because that wasn't what this is for, but I do want to move forward with the betterment project. So if we're looking to do this in the spring, in the next paving season or whatever, that we can kind of be ready for that. I mean, we're not going to be paving it now, so, right?
We all came, because we thought you were gonna tell us how much it was gonna cost.
They now have it, so they now have the information in a draft format, and it looks like what they're proposing is a 75% buy-in of the neighborhood or those affected by the betterment. So, and then we do need to, I don't know where that stands as far as, we talked about different options for paving, and you did have some price proposals on that, which I don't remember them right now, but.
And actually, they'll go up because our contract just got renewed, so the prices have gone up.
But we need to share those again because they're gonna need to know two things. If I'm going around to ask people for buy-in, I need to know how many people there are, what percentage I need, and when I go around, what is the potential cost of the project, so I can tell everybody.
And the thing to keep in mind on the cost is the end of French Street is privately owned by Nate Olson, and he does not want that end paid. So it's a shorter road than what you might be looking at.
Yep,
Well,
we will get back to you with that.
I think we need to, I really would like in the next 30 days to have another meeting with them and resolve it, if we can. Do you think that's possible, Ryan?
I think we can have a meeting in 30 days. I think I can have information for a meeting in 30 days.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, in 30 days.
yeah.
Barbara, just real quick on the percentage.
Yeah.
I mean, we just don't want to be back against the wall with 75%. Many towns in Massachusetts have a simple majority, or some of them, Mashpee has 50%. As long as 50%, petition the town council, and then again, vote on it after you do, then it can be accepted and everybody has to adhere to the betterment project. So if you could just keep that in mind, or Matt could keep that in mind, maybe a simple majority, because 75% is almost unrealistic. We don't get that kind of turnout on a presidential vote.
Well, you'd have, right, but again, you're telling people, and I don't know what the cost is, but I'm just gonna use the number $10,000. I don't think it was any, but let's just use 10,000. If you're telling people that they need to pay $10,000, then, and the town's gonna front the money, right? Because that's what's gonna happen, and then you're gonna pay back the town over a period of years. You wanna make sure, towns wanna make sure that this is really what those people that are gonna be affected want. And so even like the person who you just said doesn't want, to be paid, I don't know, like, I'm not a lawyer, but we would have to find out. Like, he might have to pay in my example, he's gonna have to pay the $10,000 because he's in that neighborhood. So.
Especially being at the end of the street.
So, and then the thing is too, if we're going in and doing that, again, another question for an attorney would be, do they have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want this? If you guys are saying, and you're the owners of the property, or, because you guys own the road, I don't know how all that works, but usually what I've seen, and, okay, you're telling me Mashpee, okay, I don't know. But what I've usually seen is it is around a 70% to 80% number, because you want to make sure that there is buy-in from the neighborhood. And, so I don't know the answer to that right now, but I hear what you're saying. So I think if we can commit to, having the costs to them, but until the council votes this policy, that's gonna be the percentage that's gonna get adopted, so, I don't see that happening before 30 days, our next meeting, so, anyway, I think that's where we stand. Anything else, Matt?
No, that's it.
Okay.
We'll work on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, have a good night, guys.
You too.
And I,
So,
have another one of your cards? I gotta ask you a question. Maybe for a group,
Don't take off 100%, Matt,
Raising
because
of
I'm not an
money.
expert on baseball fences.
Matt, did you have something?
I just wanted to state that the Mashpee, I mean, while they are comparable with population, the median household income is almost $100,000 a year. So,
Hi, Jan, thank you.
so there may
Jan.
be a lower percentage for that because their median income is a lot higher than ours.
Correct.
So there's different things that
apples and-
change, right?
right.
It's not apples to apples.
Correct.
So, I mean, yep, okay. Next item is,
Stormwater.
no, you're taking that off, right?
Correct. Yep.
Good.
Resolution for $131,850 for fences and trees at cemeteries and Chase Field.
Right. So we went out to bid. We got some really good bids. It was pretty representative of all the companies in the Commonwealth. We can get all the cemetery work done and Chase Field for $106,850. We have money in the DPW budget for the tree work at the cemeteries and the stump grinding. So we would only need about $25,000 for the tree work at Chase.
What tree work at Chase?
Thank you.
Oh, can he stop vacuuming or close the door?
Well, that and what about the tree work over here at Four Corners?
Right.
Yeah, we have money for that.
Oh, okay.
You can't close the door.
Yeah, we have to keep it open.
It's a
Go ask him
public.
to stop.
Pause on the vacuuming
like-
for a minute.
Ask
Maybe
them
find
to go down
something
the
else
hall.
to do.
He needs to close the door in the office he's in.
A normal guy wouldn't do that.
Okay,
Might be Heartland.
go ahead, what, sorry, the vacuuming became a distraction.
I just asked about the money for the tree work over here at Four Corners Cemetery because we know that the tree work also has to be done here.
Correct.
Right. And Brian responded that there was money available for that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Anybody else?
What, I guess just clarification on what needs to be done at Chase Field for tree. Is it like just old trees that are falling down,
Dead.
or
It's
like
probably about 20 feet by 30 feet of digging out from years of nobody taking care of it.
are those the arborvitaes?
No.
No. Okay. I'm not sure what this is.
I'm assuming, right, from your comment that you just made, that it's just overgrowth from not use of the field for so long that it's just
Yeah.
encroaching onto the,
That's all it was, right?
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
just cutting things back.
Yeah.
Right.
There's trees in the
Got it.
fencing.
Got it. So we're cleaning up along the fence line and taking down trees that are unsafe. Okay.
For the tree work, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, so Chase Field, I feel like we're still very up in the air as to what we're doing there.
Right.
And my feeling is that until we know what we're putting up there, I do not want to spend money on installing fencing because I don't know what we're putting up there. I don't know what we need for fencing.
this says what we need for fencing.
No, that's
It just says a dollar amount.
That's based on a proposal of two different size fields and a multipurpose field, I believe, right?
That's the proposal of what to put up there.
Yeah, so my understanding is that there's questions as to whether that will all fit up there, and I'd like to have for myself, I'd like to have some additional information before we move forward with that. So,
Yeah, I agree. Specifically
agree.
with like Chase, this came up during our budget conversations when there was a proposal in the capital budget to fund what at the time, like, we weren't sure what the scope of the project was, and that's why we took it out of the capital budget. And I still don't feel like we've gotten a comprehensive presentation on what the end goal is for Chase Field, and I don't think I can be supportive of funding anything until we have a comprehensive vision and plan and detailed in front of us as to like what is going to work up there, and then getting buy-in from the council as in saying like that's the direction we want to go. I just feel like we haven't had that conversation.
I agree.
Also, since our initial discussion on this, it was brought to my attention that there are catch basins on that field that could actually affect the placement of fields up there, and I would like to have definitive information on that before.
Yeah, I don't have to do that.
So-
I mean, I know they're up there.
So this is not about, I 100% would love to see Chase Field restored and used. I think that is great. But I just think that there needs to be a little more due diligence done.
What type of information are you guys looking for?
I want like
It's just
a capital plan, right? Like, as I think we want a capital plan for everything that needs to be done in the community, but just something that is like a comprehensive, like here's the scope of the project, here's what we're going to put in, here's the use, like here's the need,
Time frame.
time frame, budget.
Well,
all
we've
of those
talked about
things.
it. I don't have the plan. I just know what I want to do. This is my personal feeling. You guys, as the doers and owners of all things Palmer, right, should be able to put that together. I mean, I don't think, if you're asking me to put a plan together, I'll put a plan together. Sure.
Right. But I do think that there
I'll
should
go
be,
hire somebody to come do it.
I do think
Trying
that,
to redo a baseball field from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
and,
Well, no, it was 2 fields.
It was-
Two fields.
It was
and then like a multi-purpose field
middle.
maybe.
I can get one done in 3 days at Burley Park. I don't know why, like, it's a hard put it on paper kind of thing. Like,
Right. And that, like, I appreciate the work that you've done to it.
I'm not,
Yeah. And I know, in the past, there was a lot of community effort to create Chase Field initially and to put in the softball field up there. And, so I just think that there needs to be a greater conversation, about what happens up at Chase Field. Like, can there be a baseball field and a softball field? I mean, is there still a need for softball?
I have a
Is
tape
there-
measure. I could put anything
like-
anywhere. But I'm not the expert.
But I just think again, going back to my point earlier in the year about like having a capital plan, Chase Field can be a part of that plan. There's a lot of other things that need to go on that plan. And
What is it used for right now?
Nothing.
Nothing.
it's just a field.
You can't even use it as a baseball field. You got to remove all the
Yeah,
trees.
we've gone up and we've measured. You can fit a 75-foot and a 90-foot baseball diamond up there. They can't be used at the same exact time simultaneously, but you can have both fields at the same time up there. What we didn't have information on was the pricing of all the fence, because for the baseball fields, you have to to be able to achieve the 90-foot baseball field, you have to put a 16 or whatever, right? Is it 16?
1x16 backstop.
Right,
with
correct.
Overhang.
Yeah.
with
So, I mean,
16-foot run.
what I'm looking for is, this is the work for the trees and the fences. If you want baseball fields laid out, I will have to go back and get some professionals that lay out baseball fields and make, a presentation of what the baseball fields would be laid out. I didn't expect that to be required.
But I think I want, well, this is kind of what I want, but so we have Chase Field that something needs to be done with it. Like I want to
We had a proposal, we had a specific request to put something there.
Yes, right. And I think it's great, the work that Mark and, if there was anybody else who worked with you, like, that's awesome that you guys have a vision. And I think that's like what we need in the community is to have a vision to bring something to life. But like what I think the council should have before we're expected to make a decision on a fence or
Details.
yeah, is the details of saying like from point A to point Z, we have a need for fencing, and this is why we need the fencing. Like the tree removal probably needs to be done no matter what happens. Like they're probably like just bad trees. So sure, like that can be something that we just take out the trees. But I think we need a comprehensive plan of saying like from the fences to the dirt to the things, what are they?
layout.
The plates.
Baseball diamond.
The layout, yeah.
Like literally everything.
I hope your fiance's watching that.
I'm so embarrassed.
And the catch base.
I like baseball, okay?
But the biggest thing is if there, so depending what can fit up there. So again, it was brought to my attention that there's catch basins up there. I don't know where they are. I didn't go back up. I walked with Mark one day up there and looked at what his vision was.
That wasn't the day I climbed down it.
Okay, but the bottom line is there's catch basins there.
I don't
So
see anything in Google Maps, so I'm curious on how big or small
there's
these things are.
supposedly there's two of them, I believe. And so if they are there and if they are going to impede where a field goes, then that's also going to have a direct effect on where we're putting fencing and how high and all that. So for me, I would like to know for sure that those questions are answered, and then, because if Mark's vision is that the field is in this corner and then he gets told, well, it can't be there because of this catch basin, which may or may not be able to fill it. I don't know the details, that's not my expertise. But if it can't go in this corner, now it has to go in this corner, then that's going to affect the size, the height of the fencing that we're putting in, depending on which way the field is going. So that's the information that I would like to have before I'm willing to support this. I also want to make sure that those arborvitaes are not taken down, because I think that because I did hear that they are going to get taken down as part of this proposal, which I don't know if that's true or not, but those, I don't see why they need to. To me, that's a buffer of potentially balls going
Natural
into the
barrier.
parking lot and into
There's a
those
house right
homes that
behind
are there.
Right.
And the other issue that I have is, again, and I don't know I don't have this information tonight, but when you are in the parking lot and looking straight across, those houses that are that way are really close to the property line.
That's the
And
comment
so-
that I want to
Right, and so we had that same issue at Legion Field
Right.
for the baseball field, and we had to keep adding height to those fences. No, we added, it wasn't fences, it wasn't nets, it was fences, because fall balls were hitting and denting people's houses. It wasn't so much as the windows, but they had
The side yard,
fence.
right.
So, again, I think that all that stuff needs to be vetted before we make that decision. And it also might be that, okay, if only one field is able to be, maybe the placement of that field has to do with, so that we don't have balls hitting into those neighbors' homes, or we, instead of putting in a field that is for the older kids to play on, maybe it is a smaller field that's
Softball
being
field.
used. So I don't know, but I know Mark had said, and I support this 100%, not having permanent pitcher mound, so that you can take out the pitching mound.
Yeah, one's a multi-purpose,
Right, and be
multi-use.
able to use. So I
Softball.
support his vision. I just want to make sure
Do it
that
the right way.
everything's going to fit up there, and that we're not, in my opinion, putting the cart before the horse by approving fencing now, because I think there's too many questions. So that's my feeling on Chase.
I agree.
And that was the exact comment that I was going to make, because I'm looking at Google Maps right now, and that is Oakland Street, by the way.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that that it would be responsible for the town to let the neighborhood know, all the surrounding abutters, that we plan on doing upgrades and doing something with that field, so that everybody's aware. Not that it really makes a difference, but if there was a huge issue, because we're contained to our parcel, but I just want to be responsible and let the neighbors know, hey, our intention is to develop the park to something that's usable again for the community.
And it was a usable field. When my son was
Right.
growing up, they did
Right.
play sports up there.
Football, soccer,
Yeah.
Yep.
baseball.
Right, there's about a dozen homes that abut the property that probably should get some kind of notice that, hey, we have all intention in the near future to start development to make this a public use field again, so people can be up here and using it.
Well, I think the first step, not trying to, but the first step is to find out what fits up there with those, and then moving forward to say, okay, this is what our plan is. Because until we know what's gonna fit there, it's just conjecture at that.
Correct.
So can we, is get a project plan? Just totally a plan for the project, and let's get it on.
With costs.
My other question is, then, from what you had said, do we still allocate the money that, which you know you need to get rid of the trees, or just wait for a complete plan?
I'd like to wait.
You wait for the entire
Yep.
plan.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, we can still approve the other two minus the one, correct?
So then the next one is Oak, I'm going in the order of the paper. So the next one is Oak Knoll. I had a question on that as to why do we have to put chain link? I know it's chain link what you're replacing, but why can't we put the same fencing that we put around the rest of it, which is that black, whatever?
Wrought iron or,
That
Yeah,
like
thank you.
aluminum.
It's probably 3 times the cost, and it's for the rear, so the rear is falling off the part that's closest to Converse School, that's what this is for.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's, it's the back of the cemetery, so I guess you could, but it's not, a lot of people see the front of that.
Well, if we're looking to,
If we're
if we're looking to redevelop Converse School,
Right. A lot of people are going to see that again.
I guess in my
True.
mind, I, was thinking cost effectiveness, more than I was,
Which outlasts which fence is a better fencing?
which one's better?
Right.
Well, the wrought iron stuff in the front is a lot more expensive, a lot more durable, might last longer.
So,
But a black coated
for-
chain link fence is
Right.
your typical fence that you use.
so in the long run, the extra funding,
Would go farther.
right, it's gonna outlast your chain link.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the cost of the wrought iron fencing was like $110,000, back in 2019 or something?
When we did the fencing in front of Oak Knoll, yeah, that was
And this is for the backside of the,
$94,000.
this is just for the backside of the cemetery?
it's not. It's
For
for
the
the,
side
it's for
that-
the side that abuts Converse. So if you park in the
So you
Converse
see that
parking lot
street,
at the
right.
cemetery, it's the one that goes all the way up to where the building is for the cemetery. You know that, the garage they
The need
have?
of the fencing is for,
Rathbone.
The current one is falling down.
There's
okay,
also
so
like for-
why are we,
It's in disrepair, it needs to be either removed.
why is there a need for fencing at all?
So.
You're trying to keep
Or
it-
removed,
The cemeteries, but the front gates are always open, I mean, that's an argument to have, aesthetics, it's one of those things, you want a fence or you don't want.
So the reason I didn't price out the wrought iron fence is because that question was asked. Why do we even need the fence at Four Corners? So I even wrote into the RFP that we may not replace the fencing at Four Corners, but provide that pricing anyways. So that's why I also broke out the bids when I reported them to you, what it would look like if we subtracted Four Corners. So the $106,850, I think comes down to like $64,000 without Four Corners.
That's just my opinion.
Minus Chase. So 30-something.
Oh, right, yeah, correct. Yeah.
So then,
Throw that out.
so then Four Corners, my issue.
Well, I'd have to go back with the bid because I didn't say we weren't doing Chase.
So, all right, then it's a moot point at this point,
Right.
because all the pricing might change. Pricing based on quantity of doing 3 jobs versus. So then Four Corners, I'd like to see the plan of removing the trees and what that cost, like you're saying, there's money to do that, but I'd like to know what the cost is to cut all those trees down or to trim them, or what's being done at Four Corners Cemetery, because that seems to me like it's gonna be very expensive. And then I do have the question of, like I said before, of whether we need to put fencing all around that cemetery.
The only thing I would note on that is that the school property abuts most of the back of the fencing at Four Corners, but there are neighbors that abut the Four Corners Cemetery that we should probably still leave some sort of fencing or barrier up.
Yeah, they have the short.
There's no requirement. It's a choice,
No, there's
right?
no
You either want
requirement. I'm
fencing or
just-
you
Oh,
don't.
he's just saying protect
What are
the
we trying to
property.
keep out, or are we trying, I don't wanna get silly here, but what are we trying not to let in, I guess?
It's a cemetery, right, so, some people wanna see a fence there, they wanna, and then other people.
It's a privacy issue.
Really, it's a decision.
Yeah. I just don't know if it's like the biggest priority.
I would agree with
Should-
that too.
Should we probably get the,
The problem we have is that fence is like really bad shape, it needs to come down. And
Right.
in my opinion, we should replace it, we have a really good price here. but that's the decision.
And we absolutely have to do the fence at Oak Knoll, Oak Knoll.
I would like to get a public safety opinion from the chief, please.
On what?
What if there would be a need, or if there was nefarious activity that goes down in the cemeteries that they have a need for fencing that is from a public safety point of view?
Okay, yeah, I'll get.
I'm
a-
just-
Go ask
Yeah,
him.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. Yeah.
There's been a hole cut in that fencing for probably 30 years. I was gonna say. That section that has the sliver like this cut, where I feel like somebody went like this and walked in, that's been there forever. Nothing new, yeah.
yeah, we're talking about replacing fencing at cemeteries and stuff. I mean, I can get public safety letters and we can talk
I'm-
this to death, or we can just do it or not do it.
I think somebody driving out too, it's a deterrent from somebody driving out through the cemetery at the backside, especially a Converse parking lot as well.
Right.
I just think though, if we're gonna look at developing Converse,
It should be nice.
Like having
curb appeal.
appeal, yep.
Right.
is
It's
that
the
we spend the
optics.
money,
That it's
but again,
continuous
it's
at
hard
the
to have
front.
that without knowing what that pricing would be, or
Right, I'll have to
estimated
go out to bid
pricing.
for that. That's
I
fine.
don't know.
Yep.
That's
I
fine.
don't know that you have to go out to bid, like, why can't you just get a price for however many feet of that fencing? To just get an estimate of what it is.
Because it's got to be
It has to
installed,
be a
right?
form-
Yeah, we don't
but
have to
you
get.
could-
Yeah, but you
I
can
mean,
get the-
I mean, I have all the prevailing wage list and all that stuff from the last time. Yeah, I'll try to get some quotes.
All right, are we gonna skip over this tonight?
Yes, we
Yes.
are.
We're not looking probably to do anything with that until spring anyway, at this point, right? I mean,
Correct.
if we approved it tonight, you probably would have started now,
What?
the fence,
Oh,
the
I
fence
thought you were
project.
talking about wastewater.
But primarily, you're looking for spring, right? At this point? It's getting late in the season?
No, they could have all done this work.
But aren't you still cutting down the trees at this one over here? Four Corner Cemetery? Well, there's trees there's like,
A lot of it's more or less stumper, so if we're gonna, they have to remove the fence, become this ground of stumps, and they use the machine to put the roof down. There's really not a whole lot of tree removal we did. There may be one here or there.
is there tree trimming happening though? Because there's major,
Yeah, we could do that.
you guys do tree trimming?
With the mower, you guys just authorize the fix.
No, tree trimming. Tree trimming, like a big tree up here that drops a branch that's like, you guys aren't doing that, are you?
I thought you meant the branches, you can trim the branches.
No, I'm talking like the big limbs. Because it seems like that there are a lot of limbs falling if I'm looking at the cemetery on the right-hand side.
Yeah, we can get that, I guess.
I mean-
never really noticed any big branches that need to be trimmed right away.
Well, I know from the time Mark and I walked that cemetery, like probably a week and a half to 2 weeks later, a huge branch fell that I noticed when I was driving by, and they're falling on the gravestones. So, I mean, again, I think our tree warden maybe needs to go out there and.
We have one?
No, we need a new tree warden.
Yeah, I didn't think we had one currently.
All right, well, let's just move on, because
Yeah.
it's getting late.
We're getting,
Wastewater loan authorization, $2 million, first reading.
So I have a question before you read it.
I gotta find it, but go ahead.
Am I allowed to ask before he reads it?
Yeah, go ahead.
What is, I thought we already did the loans for wastewater.
We did, and we went out to bid, and the project costs increased.
What changed?
Structural steel prices.
So we were doing roof and centrifuge.
Right, those are two separate projects.
Yep.
This is just the roof.
This is just an additional $2 million for a roof.
Correct.
So it went from 2 to 4?
Yeah, so how did it double?
Can I put up the roof?
Stop it.
It doubled based upon the bid prices that we got back when we went out to bid. Previously, it was just an estimate.
Retired.
Then we got the actual bid prices back, and it was $4 million.
How big is this roof?
Roof?
I'm trying to think of that whole conversation.
I know it was nowhere near this amount of money.
Oh, it is.
So how could someone first estimate just the roof and then find out there was almost another 2 million in structural steel below it that was never included in the first estimate?
Oh, here it is.
I mean,
I'm just asking.
I
It's,
thought I had heard from Ty and Bond about that one, because I remember picking on that roof, that the structural, the expense of it was due to the structural steel underneath. Because it's a flat roof, correct? And versus a pitched roof, the flat roof is done with the structural type steel. I do vaguely remember.
And this is going to be split. There's like with the contract with Belchertown and Munson, they will pay a portion of this $4 million, correct?
Yep, Munson will be $850,000 and Belchertown is $50,000.
Okay.
And they approved the overage
So-
on their sides?
No, not yet. Not Munson. Belchertown automatically pays us. Theirs is built into the rates that they pay.
So out of roughly 4,000,008, they're gonna contribute 800,000.
850.
Munson is about 20%.
I'm just rough numbers. So we're on the hook for 4 million and they're combining for 800,000.
Which brings your 4 million down
Right.
by 800,000.
850,000.
Thanks for that.
Well, just saying.
No, I can do the math.
What
It's
was the
just,
total
well,
bid
you
price
just
of,
keep
what was the
spitting at
total
it.
bid?
Yeah. The total bid was $4,139,700. So that's a differential of 1.2 million. 1,271,700.
Can you give me that number again? I'm sorry. 4 million what?
4,139,700.
Oh, so we only approved $1 million for the roof the first time.
You approved 2.868 million for the roof.
And then you need another 2 million?
And this is coming from sewer stabilization?
No, this is coming from a borrow.
This is a loan
then the
that
rates will
sewer
repay
folks
it.
have to pay back.
I
Okay,
can't
that
remember,
was my question. So not all taxpayers are gonna have to take this burden on, it's just the
Just the
ratepayers.
ratepayers.
Correct.
And that was in the plan, or is this additional on top of the rate study that we did?
That's additional, because they only
Additional.
plan
So
for
this
the
was-
2.8.
So.
I'm just
That's
not
what I'm
doing that at
saying.
you. I'm just like, I don't understand.
No, I get it. So here's
Cost
what
me $1
I.
million to
Right. Exactly. So here is what I'm asking then. Is there a formula behind tie-in bonds that we can do the math? Because this seems like a moving target. So there has been more money that has been added to this capital plan / rate study than we anticipated. Like this is not in that study. Also, the junction thing, that's
The
not in the
junction
study.
is not. The roof has always been in that study.
For this amount of money?
2.8.
But for two,
for
No,
2.8.
For 2 point, that's what I'm
Whatever
saying.
we approved is what the
Right.
roof
Right.
amount was.
4.1
not
million.
4 point, right.
Right, so where does
Because-
that change so how does that affect that rate study? Where are we?
Double it.
The rate study is being recalculated right now, based upon all of this information here.
and I think realistically, when
not
you
buying
look
the
at
centrifuge yet.
when you look at the way that the economy is shifting prices of things, like the rate study shouldn't be like a set in stone study anyways. Like that, there should be an expectation that when we bid projects and we get the actual cost for those projects, that we have to reevaluate the rate study accordingly to take account for what we get in those bids. I mean, I think like the junction thing was a little bit of an oversight, but I do think that kind of like a capital plan, these things should be flexible when costs come in. And
Right, so then my question to this is how can people afford the rate? Like that's, like, you know what I mean? So we're gonna have to figure out how high this rate is gonna have to be to fix all this stuff.
That's
then
what's
there's-
being done right now.
Right, and then on top of that, there's only so many ratepayers.
Right.
And they don't have an option not to pay.
Right.
So unfortunately, those people are going to encumber this cost and not have any option to not encumber this cost.
right,
So the purpose of reading this tonight is what?
because that's what we have to do.
I'm not
So-
voting. I'm not.
Well, it's not a vote, but I have questions. So we initially appropriated or authorized 2.868 in debt, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you just said the project came in at 4,139,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said that Munson's share is 800 and something thousand dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But now you having us authorized 4,868,000.
Right.
We're bearing it, yeah.
Well, so it's 4.1.
Yep.
Munson's cost is 800.
850.
Are they paying us back over the 20 years of this loan? Or are they
Yes, they're
borrow-
gonna pay us back, either in a lump sum or over the period of the loan. I don't have that entirely worked out yet, because they weren't able to get this on for a town meeting. But we have to move forward with this, or else the cost is going to increase even more.
So there's no guarantee, though, that Munson is going to appropriate that money.
There is a guarantee. We have an agreement with their town. They owe us the money.
And Belchertown pays us how much?
50,000.
50,000.
How big is this roof? Is it like the
Well,
size of Big
So
Y?
It's not just that.
So it's not a roof.
There's a lot
it's,
of stuff.
It's also, like, we keep calling it a roof. It's not just a roof.
Right,
So I
sure.
really
It's
think that-
structural also.
Yeah, so, but that's deceiving. Like, so it makes everyone think it's almost $5 million. It's not a roof. Like, we shouldn't be calling it just a roof.
It's basically the whole building, right? It's to keep the building.
Well, that's a bit of a difference.
Can we move them into Converse?
That is a little bit.
Yeah, take it from Converse and put it on.
But to Barbara's point, though, like, why do we need to borrow an additional $728,000 if the project's going to cost 4.1?
No, an additional $2 million.
Well, yeah, an additional $2 million. But if the project costs 4.1 million, and
Because
we're,
if we borrow the exact amount of money and the project has some type of unknown, we will have zero contingency.
Well, that's where we are now, though. We're at
Yes.
2 million unknown until. No, we had these structural problems until.
We know a lot more now because we've gone out to bid. We have a general contractor that is waiting to see if we're going to sign a contract or not. I've had 2 contract extensions to keep them in these prices. But if I don't go out to bid, if I not go out to bid, but if I don't get this done and we go out to bid again, it's back into who knows what the cost is going to be.
But again, you're asking us to authorize $4,868,000 on a bid price that you have of $4,139,700. So you're asking us to authorize more than the actual cost, and then you're saying that Munson's gonna contribute $800,000.
Right, that will reduce this cost, right? We're including their $850 in this, because they haven't gone to town meeting. So we're floating their cost.
So what happens if it fails? We just tell them they can't use our stuff anymore, and we eat the cost.
No, we can't do that because that's public health. But if Munson, if you don't know which way Munson is doing this, which they don't have 800,000 laying around where they're just gonna write us a check for 800,000. So if they're gonna borrow the money, then that means they're gonna pay us back over a period of 20 years, or are they just are they borrowing the money and then using that 868 or whatever the number is that they're borrowing to pay towards the project cost? Like, I feel like that's important.
It's important, but I don't have those answers for you. And I'm telling you right now, and I don't mean I don't mean to make this sound like we're being held hostage, but this is a pretty tight timeline.
Well, Ty and Bond estimated a cost for this at 2.8 million, correct? And I'm assuming that included contingencies in their price. So that wasn't just the cost, that was with contingency of probably.
Whole breakdown
the whole
is
building.
right here.
The new breakdown or the original
The
breakdown?
new breakdown as of July
But that's not
11th
what I-
of this.
That's not what Barbara's saying,
Not what
though.
we're talking about.
Barbara's saying the original cost estimate from Ty and Bond
Yeah.
was 2.8.
I'm assuming it was 2.8 million.
That's what we approved.
With contingency, meaning that was like the high end.
Correct.
Yeah, so we've got 8% contingency of $275,700.
On the new one.
Right, but that would have been basically the contingency on the old one.
8% of 2.8 million and 8% of 4.1 million is a big difference.
8% contingency on the old one.
Okay?
Okay, right? I don't know what the next part of the question is.
No, I'm just stating a fact. You said
Ty and
8%.
Bond put a cost estimate together for us at 2.8 million, almost $2.9 million.
Sure.
That included a contingency.
Yep.
So in theory, with a contingency, the goal is that 2.9 million was more than we needed to do this project.
But it didn't turn out to be that
No,
way.
now their cost
wasn't even
estimate was $2 million. The project is right,
$2 million
which is a
off
lot.
of their,
So 50%.
Is it because of
Crystal ball.
findings, or was it because, that's what I'm curious about.
Sounds
Was
like
it-
findings.
It sounds
It
like
went from,
findings.
hey, we have a flat roof that sucks, we need a new roof, to our building's a piece of shit and we gotta build a new building, basically.
I just, and I know it's not you, Ryan, it just really irritates that, you know, we spend a lot of money with Ty and Bond. For them to miss a mark that much and now expect ratepayers
1,200 people, right? On
to
sewer.
stomach it, where it is a town building. I don't care what you
if
say.
some folks put
it's
together
not
an
just
estimate, and
the
that estimate
ratepayers that use
is
it.
close but not accurate, and the project costs what the project costs, it's
Oh, I
not
get
really
it.
on Ty and Bond. I mean, the project.
Well, it is
came out to
because
be-
they're the ones that go out for us and say, okay, this is how you're going to make your decisions. You know, they go, yeah, it's going to. They know the market. That's their job. You know.
the
And
market's
They
it's
inv-
a
yeah,
tough
they
place
they
right now.
freaking blew it. Quite frankly, is what I'm.
Well, I mean, this does, like,
And there ain't no nice way to say it. $2 million off is a lot of money off.
I'd be fired.
Yeah.
For some, yeah.
If I went through an executive,
You know,
I said, sorry.
I mean, we've been using these guys for everything. We always just use them, and you know, we just gave them 60 grand to figure out how to tax us, and they're off that much for a company that does this for a living. Is off $2 million is infuriating.
and that doesn't even.
And again,
include-
it's not on you, I know, but it's them that now we're supposed to ask her, and obviously you can't not fix the thing. It just, and they just get to pull their little wagon with their bundle of money down the road, and big deal, we were off $2 million.
And it doesn't
I really
include the
don't
junction
think it's
that
as
they
simple as that.
missed either.
Well,
But-
what was the driving factor that made it $2 million more?
I
Was
think
it
there
all of
was
a sudden
addi-
steel went up?
yes,
what?
a whole combination of different factors.
Well, if you had the original estimate, where's the original estimate to the actual bid? Because they would have outlined how they got up to 2.8 million.
I don't know. I don't have that with me right now.
I mean, I'd like to see it from
Well, this is just a reading.
from
We're
the
not,
people
we're
we
not
paid's
voting on
mouth
anything,
of
right?
why this,
So-
you know, have Tony and them sitting there and explaining to us how you missed the mark of $2 million. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, quite frankly.
Fixed.
When are you
It's
gonna,
only going to become much harder.
when are you gonna have
But
information?
Ryan, it's
from
$2 million,
Munson?
$2 more million that 1,200 people
It's
are
a
going to
$5
foot.
million project.
Correct.
It's $2 million minus $850,000 and minus $50,000. So minus $900,000. So it's about $1 million extra. In today's
No.
It's
the-
two.
That's a real nice guy.
Munson was originally contributing $800 and something thousand. So if
So it
we
would have been,
originally.
the original cost would have been 2
2
million.
million versus 2.8, just pretend their number is 868. So now now the project cost, instead of being 2
Well,
million.
their number is 800 and the 68 would be Belchertown, we'll
Correct.
say.
Right.
So there's the two. So
so
that
now-
would have made the cost to the town 2 mil. But now,
Well, that's
we've
the-
got to
well-
absorb another
Well,
2.
that's my question
it's
too.
3.
is
And I
that-
get that you got to do it, Ryan.
3
I
point whatever
understand
for the
it,
town.
and the costs are not going to go down. Just like when we promoted the police department, you know, it was the time to do it because the prices were never going to go down. You know, and at that time the prices were really good, and you know we got it approved. And I totally get, you know, you being behind the 8 ball here with being able to say, look, I need to get this done, and if I don't, it's gonna, now, it could, who knows, go up another 2 mil if you gotta go out for another bid.
What was
you know,
Munson's
it's
cost,
just-
when our cost was when the cost was 2,868,000, what was Munson's cost?
20%. Munson's costs are 20%.
Bob, could you read the loan authorization so we can just get this first reading
Sure.
done?
Can I borrow that? September 18th, 2023, loan authorization 2023-1, a bond order authorizing the borrowing of additional funds to pay the costs of designing and reconstructing the wastewater treatment plant roof. Be it ordered by the Town Council of the Town of Palmer as follows. Resolved, that the town appropriates $2 million to pay costs of designing and reconstructing the wastewater treatment plant's roof, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto, which amount shall be expended in the addition of $2,868,000 previously appropriated for this project. That to meet this appropriation, treasurer, with the approval of town manager, is authorized to borrow said amount under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7-1, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes to the town thereof. All or any portion of the amount of authorized to be borrowed by this order may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, the trust, and in that regard, the town manager and any other appropriate officials of the town are authorized to execute any and all agreements that may be required to obtain financial assistance through the trust. The amount authorized to be borrowed by this order shall be reduced to the extent of any grants or gifts received by the town or on account of this project.
Thank you, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So could you have us, have sent to us the original cost estimate from Ty and Bond, the estimate you have per the bid, and an explanation from Ty and Bond as to, if needed, as to why there was such a large difference in their estimated price versus the bid.
And then another part of this that we didn't talk about is there were 4 ad alternates, the pump houses. So that might also be a component.
For what? Ryan?
Weren't included in the original?
That was good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
They were included, but they were ad alternates, and we have to do them. They're not really ad alternates.
What was that price?
The price for each pump house, hold on one second,
What made them become mandatory, I guess?
is that they're falling apart.
How did we not know that when we looked at it?
We did. That's why we put them as ad alternates.
But they're not on site. You're talking pump houses around town.
Yeah, 4 of them.
So they're not on site.
I understand that.
And their price is $409,000.
Doesn't sound like a roof to me.
It's not, it's a general project. You just,
All right, well, I
Let's not-
think
I don't wanna
if you
move
can
on.
just get us all that information so that we have
90
more
to freaking degrees in
information.
here.
Yep.
Any other old new business?
Nope.
Subcommittee reports?
Well, new business. Do we want to talk about the water nonsense or no?
Yeah, I do. I have people complaining to me.
People want to know.
Correspondence?
Sure. Subcommittee reports? Town managers report?
Thank you. I'll be really quick.
Sorry, I'm
Well,
looking at you.
I just submit my
pissed
town
off.
manager's report to the record. This is late.
Miscellaneous correspondence?
Well, lots of activity. In general, just all the water districts. Bondsville was their turn this week, right? I feel like we really failed as an administration here on communicating, having the right plans in place to make sure that folks knew what the hell was going on, what the process was, and what they should be doing or not doing. That's my opinion.
each water department has the ability to be able to be on the robocalls. I know Thorndike opted out of it at one time because of the cost, but due, as you're saying now, what's going on is there does need to be a better way of these water departments and to get the information out. I mean, I know vaguely even what's transpired, the bottom of their tank supposedly that's being fixed, the water main. People are wondering, do they still boil water or not?
I found out that Springfield needed to boil water like 5 times.
Right.
And I had no idea what the hell's going on in
On
Palmer.
TV, on the phone, it came all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my other question, and I know it can't be answered here, is why has Palmer Water District not had a boil order with all the brown water? Or am I missing something? Like, I'm encouraging people to make phone calls, stop calling the water department, go to the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go right to the DEP, and especially with Palmer. I don't hate to throw him under the bus. Too bad, you know.
You're encouraging the regulatory department of
Yes.
environmental
Because, I
protection.
mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Phil.
They might as well do something.
On the record.
You know?
No, I agree.
Seriously, we have no
They might as well at
communication.
least do their job.
I found out through Facebook that there was a town crier at frickin' Dunkin' Donuts screaming through a microphone or whatever. Like, what the hell is this shit?
Well, I think
You know,
the
deterioration, you know, for years and years, probably before I was even born, but since I was a kid,
definitely
is
before I was-
always, it breaks, let's fix it. I heard it. You know, and there was never, ever no plans to better your infrastructure or whatever. And some of the blame's the people too, though, for always, and I'm right there with, look, you want your rates low, but you also want
I just
to
want
have
clean
good
freaking water.
clean water. But you can't have both, as it's now rearing its ugly head.
I really
Everywhere.
think,
know?
and I'm just going to end my rant with this. I really think we need to look at having a private company come in and manage the water districts. Not the town.
There's also a document out there that somebody in town created about merging the department.
Thorndike
It's been out there
Bondsville,
forever.
Thorndike
You're never going to get
Bondsville.
rid of the Dukes and all the little freaking power trips. You're not.
Thorndike, Bondsville, and Three Rivers sat
have to be
together with,
crushed.
not Ty and Bond, but Tate and Howard. And they had a plan put together where the three districts, because Palmer didn't want to be involved, where the three districts could more or less unite and identify, back then, it has to be 10 years or better now, that their tank was one of the issues with, okay, all three districts, this is what it's going to cost. You have so many people in your district, so many here. This is the cost. It gets divided up, and we put up a new tank there, and one, or relocated, actually, I think, to a higher spot in Thorndike somewhere, to where now, you know, obviously the higher the tank, the better the pressure. But yeah,
The communications.
the good old boy days has got to be
It's
gone.
done. The communications
It is going,
were handled by town council.
you know.
Right. Right. And I agree with you 100%. But the problem, though, Mark, and you know the problem, just like everybody else at this council knows, is that the water districts are managed by their own government. They have their own government. They run their own stuff. They run their own rates. And until that changes, and until, let's put it this way, until the taxpayers start recognizing the issues are not on the town level, they're on the district level, and they start getting involved and start voicing their opinions, nothing is ever going to change.
I think a lot more people are getting involved, but I think they're not getting where they want to get.
Right.
And don't they go through us to get their answers reconciled?
What
'Cause
can
it has
we do?
to end with us.
Yeah, we've been
'cause they-
speaking up, but no, they need to go, just like, well, Palmer has their meetings like 4:30. Most working people can't be there for 4:30.
Yeah, I had one other piece of miscellaneous communication, not just to keep us moving, sorry. There's two places on the town website. I had 3 people call me about this. One is on the page, if you search in the little searchy box for lawn and leaf. Different
Bane of
calendar.
our existence.
Different calendar than this one on the DPW site. Causes a lot of confusion. I don't know who maintains what. I just tell folks
There's
to
2 calendars?
2 different schedules out there.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
I think that it would be really helpful to have that leaf pit information on the news or on the homepage somehow, because that is like that, and also whether there's recycling or not, which nobody ever answers those comments. So people don't know, like when it's a holiday weekend, is there recycling? Like if it falls on a holiday weekend, if it's bad weather, if it's going to rain. Like we do terrible with getting communication out as far as if something is still on or out, and those are people too that are sometimes posting on our town Facebook page. And so I do think that if we're going to have a Facebook page and someone's asking a question like that, we have obligation
To
to
respond.
answer the question.
Have you gone to have you guys seen the new DPW page?
The problem is people
That's
have,
got a full calendar.
but people have to, right, but people have to know where to drill down to go get information, which isn't always happening.
Right.
But as far as like the recycling, I believe whatever the last, whatever the holiday was that just went by, where that was the week it was supposed to be. Was it Labor Day?
That was the last holiday, yeah.
It's open. So the only time we close is if the recycling is closed, and we'll post it's closed.
Well, then maybe,
It's always open.
so then maybe when we talk about the recycling of when it is, maybe we should put a little, a disclaimer of that information, because people don't know. And then they start asking each other, and it's like, we want to be the one providing the information. We don't want people, we're trying to encourage people to not go onto Facebook to get information, but that's where people go, because that's where they're probably going to get the information, so.
Yeah, we will try to make it more front and center.
I can send you the 2 links that I.
Yeah,
saw.
that would be great.
I mean,
That
All
would be
right.
great.
pretty
Are we
easy.
good?
Yep.
Yes.
I don't know if we're good, but we can move on. The other thing too is that as a council, didn't we officially ask to talk about water?
We did.
The districts.
So I believe that, was it Palmer said that they were going to bring it up at their September meeting, which I believe happened.
It just happened like a week.
Thursday,
So
right?
maybe you could follow up to see, because they wanted a full count, they wanted a full board to make a decision as to whether they were going to meet with us or not. And then there was what I thought was a very good meeting yesterday. Well, they didn't have the full.
So there was an option to meet with us? Like they don't
No,
want to
no,
meet with the council?
No, they wanted to talk, they didn't have a full board
Yeah.
at a meeting, that when Ryan went and asked for them to meet, and they asked if they could get back to us after their next meeting, when they had a full board in. It would be like us saying, there's 3 people missing tonight, we'd like to discuss
understand.
this, so, but that meeting happened. And then there was what I thought was a very productive meeting yesterday with the Bondsville Water Commissioners and town staff, and trying to help to get messaging out there yesterday, which was updated. The boil water order remains in effect today, will remain in effect tomorrow, and then an update will be provided once they get a second batch of testing. So right now, it is still in effect, but I thought that it was a very productive meeting, and it was a step towards the communication that needs to happen if an event like this ever happens
Now,
again.
the boil water is just for Bondsville itself, correct?
Correct.
Because
And some of South
Thorndike
Belchertown.
It's South
is
Belchertown,
getting
yeah.
Three Rivers water instead of Bondsville, correct? And if they shut off, from my
They turned a valve or
they
something.
turned off Bondsville side, opened up Three Rivers side.
Yeah,
to
they're getting
supply
Three
Thorndike.
Rivers water, yeah. But the
Right.
problem is that there's some stagnant areas that are not getting enough pressure that I guess are causing issues in the system right
Well,
now.
like up on Griffin Street's a higher elevation and.
Yeah, there are some people complaining on Facebook that have 0 water pressure, so.
But I would
Because we have to
suggest
fix
that.
the pump house.
So
again,
residents can
They should
contact?
contact the,
That's
they should contact the Bondsville Water District. And they did say yesterday that they were manning, that the phone was being manned. There was they were supposed to put a message on their voicemail that said that the boil water order was in effect, so that if people got the voicemail, they would have the information. And
water is available to
and
residents that need water
was
at the fire
available
department?
at the fire department.
Yes, and if
yes.
anybody is disabled or elderly, they just need to contact and it will be delivered to them.
Perfect.
What do they call it? The water district?
Yes.
Fire
The
department.
fire department is delivering water if needed.
So I thought there were some positive steps put into play
I
yesterday.
do think Bondsville's definitely trying to do the best that.
They are,
They are.
absolutely. I feel that way too, so, okay,
Just mad at them all, I'm sorry.
that's okay. All right, we good?
Good.
Anybody else need to vent about
good.
anything, speak about anything? Okay. So, we are going to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the of the public body, and the chair so declares. I so declare. This is with the United Public Service Employees Union, UPSEU Local 424M, DPW/Administrative Unit, Contract 2022 to 2025. I'll take a vote in a moment to go into executive session.